Welcome to the Zesty Ginger Podcast. We are Megan and Dr. Alex. We are here for transformation. Yours, ours, and the collective. Personal and professional for practitioners. But not just any transformation. Compassionate transformation. Because between the two of us, we have seemed to have done things the painful way. Let our pitfalls become your stepping stones. We aren't afraid to share our raw and vulnerable truths in order to help you transform your thinking, your body, your heart, and your soul. Combining 15 years of functional medicine with brain-based habit change to lead you to the best life possible in a compassionate way. Compassion, yes, yet plan to roll up your sleeves. Transformation requires your participation. And a quick reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor, not this doctor, before making changes. Now let's get into the episode. Hi there, it's Dr. Alex here with you, and I am popping in for a short podcast episode today about abandonment. This is going to be part of a series that I'm going to put together. Now, it's not going to be a formal series. This is going to be more of a casual series as I pop in with things. But I wanted to create some podcasts that are the how of talking nicely to yourself on different topics. This is something that is really important for me personally, because this is something that I had to learn how to do. And I previously did not have a good concept of what it even looked like to love yourself. Like, I would always hear that kind of stuff and I would understand the importance of it even, but I didn't really even know what that meant. So if you are relating to that, this is going to be a helpful intro to this whole subject for you. But what happened is that over time, I have realized that things like self-love, things like confidence, things like trusting yourself are created by moment decisions, thoughts, emotions, emotional processing that we do in real time. I do think that most people, and I have been there as well, are looking for the big aha moment that will flip everything around. And most of the time, life does not kick up big moment after big moment after big moment after big moment. Now, are there people and are there times in life that happens? Sure. But is that everybody at all times? No. And you can tell that by looking around, right? So even though we want big shifts, and when we're really in a place of pain and hurt, we of course want the big shift so that we feel better. But if that's not happening, we have the opportunity to gather the magic and the results from the little moments instead. Right? You are not stuck if something big isn't happening. Where you can reclaim that is in the small moments. Now, even if there are big things happening, the small moments still matter. So it's kind of like no matter what, the small moments still matter. Whether you're feeling stuck, whether you're in transition, when you're actively going through something, it does not matter. The moment by moment decision to think differently, to be more kind towards yourself, to feel the emotions instead of sweeping them under the rug, to take care of physical sensations and make sure that you are not living in fight or flight all the time, all of these things begin to really add up. And so, in the spirit of teaching, how does one even talk to yourself, right? I just wanted to have these little bite-sized podcast episodes, especially because we're having more each week now, is that kind of what is my reply to my mental gremlins on certain subjects. Of course, none of these are going to be the end-all be-all to what you should say to yourself. This is simply an example of something that I have found that works for me, and it's going to kick off hopefully some ideas for you to noodle on and decide how you want to do it instead. Now, you may find that you like my thing and you may apply it, but really that's not the case here, because some of the things that I may say may not fit for you, and that's okay. These are just examples of what works for me. so that I can show the really nitty-gritty, these are thought replies, and something that I habitually teach myself to think when I have certain things. So, abandonment and rejection have been things that have come up for me in the past multiple times, right? In the flow of life, there seems to be certain lessons that we master on certain topics, and for each of us, they look a little bit different and they're on different things. And thank goodness, because if we didn't all have different mastery levels and different things that we were all good at, then the world would be a much worse place. And so with that abandonment and feeling rejected is something that I've dealt with, right? And so when I know that that comes up for me, then that is the kind of time that I do not want to leave myself kind of hanging without help over and over again. If it's something that happens once in a blue moon, probably less important. But something like abandonment, or maybe it's low self-worth, or I'll talk through other ones in the future. But if they come up again and again, that's where having a standardized habitual response to the mental gremlins comes in really handy, because you think the crappy thought that you always think, and then you begin to reinforce with a new thought that you then have a response to. And because that response makes you feel differently as an extension, then your actions are then more aligned with the response rather than the crappy thought. So at each point, we get to shut down our own mental gremlins powerfully that way. Now, of course, this is only one strategy. This is not something that works for me all the time in every scenario. That would be silly. But when I practice and have this be part of my toolkit, I then get to do things in real time instead of, you can't always journal. You can't always step away and hash it out. You can't always do certain things, right? And so this is the kind of thing I have in my toolkit. So when I feel abandoned, my go-to is thank goodness for me. Okay? It's very simple. They always are. My responses to myself for the habitual thoughts are, because the reason that it works for me, and I was just going to talk it out because, again, this is an example. This is not something for you to take on unless you relate to it. But what would a statement sound like for you? Because in my take, when I feel abandoned and rejected is often when I am putting power in someone else's hands. I want them to like me. I want them to come hang out with me. I want them to prioritize me. I want them to choose me. I want them to do X, Y, Z for me, right? And the reply of thank goodness for me does a couple things. A, it reminds me that my power is with me, that even if I don't like something, I get to choose how I respond and make it different or make it feel different to me, even if I can't change the end result, right? So that's it. Thank God for me, because me is going to be the one that handles the fallout, handles the abandonment, handles taking care of me, shows up for me, right? And then for the other one, it really also reinforces thank God for me, or thank goodness for me, however I phrase it in the moment, is that I'm anchoring back to the way that I feel, the way that I show up, the way that I stand is something that I can be proud of, right? And so I'm both using the gratitude portion of that, and I'm honing in on the me portion of that. And you can quickly see how when you're coming up to abandonment, having the antidote of bringing it back to yourself and anchoring it into gratitude is essentially seeing that abandonment and turning the other way. You're just, okay, I see you, but here's over here. This is what I'm doing. This is who I'm being. What do I want to do next? And over time, as I've habituated that thought and that reply, the feelings that come from the thoughts of abandonment, the interpretation and the story that I tell myself around there is then interrupted by this new story that I'm telling myself. Now, have there been times where I've been like screaming at the sky, thank goodness for me, I got this, I'm the one, because I am mad about the abandonment? Yes, because I was venting out emotions along the way. But in doing so, I got to reinforce the idea of coming back to myself and coming back to myself with gratitude and love for myself no matter what. And to be honest, I do think that I needed a little bit of that anger piece for me to disconnect and not put all my eggs in someone else's basket of what they thought of me, what they wanted for me, what they thought was right for me, what they thought I should do. And that anger let me know, you know what, that feels bad because they're overstepping. It feels bad because I'm handing over my power. It feels bad because that's not aligned with me, right? And when I honored the anger and I allowed myself to think those thoughts and feel the anger, it taught me a lot about who I am and how I can stand on my own. And it resolved the anger about that. And I get to just say, thank goodness for me when I feel abandoned. And I make a decision of how I want that new identity to look like, where I'm approaching myself with love, where I'm showing up for me. And that's what we're doing today, or at least in the next second. And if the mental gremlins come back the following second, well, gosh, I got answers for them too, right? I don't leave myself unattended, whether it's thoughts like this, or replies to mental gremlins, or beliefs. I'm making sure that if I hear something that doesn't feel good, that I am not leaving it. I am finding a thought that I like that feels better. Okay, this is resourcefulness. This is taking action, and it seems small. And I do think that most of us want the gold star to say, hey, look what a good job I did today. And it's weird to say that about a thought, but let that go. Like, just let it go to need the validation of, look at what I checked off my list. Or just get over the fact that it sounds weird and say, I'm so proud of the thought I had today, even if that does sound weird, right? One way or another, we own it. We own the celebration, the up-leveling, the difficult moments that we have that we then work through and answer the mental gremlins that say, oh my gosh, I just gave myself evidence that I can do that. And if I can do that on this topic, I can do it on this other thing that I think is even more important, or is weighing on my heart more, or whatever it is that's going on for you. So play around with that one. If abandonment and rejection speaks to you, see what you come up with, right? And any other mental gremlins, like I said, I'm going to be popping in and just showing examples and why I like those ones and speaking to it. I would love, love, love to hear your versions though. So please shoot us an email, send us a DM on Instagram, and just let me know, okay, on the podcast, this is what I heard, and this is my version. And I would love to hear what kind of stuff you have and begin to weave it all together, because how cool is it when we can all come together and share these little things. It's like the how. Everyone wants to know how to love themselves, but if we can all come together, work together to create that and really teach each other, the world becomes so much more fun, so much more fulfilling. And hey, for any of us who are in the abandonment, rejection field, maybe we'll feel less of that, right? Or I'm sure we will, because we're showing up for it. But the rest of the world can begin to catch up. And that is a beautiful thing. All right, that's it for today. I'll catch you on the next podcast episode.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.